Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Disruptors Creed podcast. I'm Kristen Zeman, and I'm honestly a little shocked you're here. Since you are, buckle up. This show is for the bold, the brave, and the mildly unhinged souls who are done accepting this is just the way it is. Around here, we challenge everything: your mindset, your comfort zone, and occasionally your tolerance for sarcasm. Each week, I will drop a cocktail of truth bombs, hot takes, and hard-earned lessons, sometimes wrapped in inspiration, sometimes wrapped in profanity. Either way, it is always wrapped in disruption. So if you're ready to stop settling and start stirring shit up in your life, your work, and maybe even the world, let's get into it. Hey, Chris, happy podcast day.
Hi, Kristen Zeman. How are you?
I'm so good. I'm great, actually. Today we're using technology to record a podcast together, and the very topic today is technology. But before we do that, I would like you to be able to defend yourself from the public, how do you say, scrutiny that I gave you by posting online about what you did.
Well, I appreciate that because I did see that post and
Wait, why don't we tell the listeners who don't know what you did? Do you want me
okay.
to, or would you like to? I'll start, and then you could defend yourself. Okay.
Okay.
Well, friends, listeners, fellow disruptors, my YouTube channel and all of my social media, for that matter, is carefully curated. It's like garbage in, garbage out. That's how I think of it. So I follow like great leaders. I follow, some CrossFit tips. I follow psychology people, studies, and some scientists. So the point here is when I scroll through my YouTube, the algorithm is really a reflection of my soul. And I just happened to log on to my YouTube account on our television that we share in our living room. And there is on my account in my YouTube feed pickleball matches, just pickleball matches. Like as I scroll, my YouTube algorithm believes that I want to watch pickleball. How do you think that happened to my YouTube feed, Christine?
Well, first of all, now I'm actually offended because so you're saying garbage in and garbage out, and you
Oh,
describe that
bring
as
it on.
pickleball. So
Bring it on.
I find that offensive because there is so much strategy to pickleball that
Oh
actually
my
watching
God.
it increases, I think betters my game because it helps me understand a little bit more strategy. But
Oh my
so I'm
gosh.
not
Hold on. Pause right there. I couldn't agree with you more. Look at us finding common ground. I think that is so true. You are a pickleballer. You're a 4.2 pickleballer. Therefore, you should continue to better yourself. And by the way, a shout out to the new followers, listeners who are also pickleballers. So I support y'all trying to get better. I just think you should have your own YouTube channel to do it because I am not a
okay.
pickleballer.
Okay, slow down. Slow down. First of all, there are pickleball matches on your feed, and I was in the living room watching them. However, I did have a little help because, as you know, my pickleball partner was here from Arizona. We were getting ready to play in the U.S. Open,
You are about to throw
and
Steph under the bus because
no,
she was
first of all,
visiting.
I did not say anyone's name. You did. And second of all, I was just going to say that we did watch some matches to try to prepare to be better. And that's one thing I've learned on this podcast, right? And from living with you for as long as I have. You know, just always strive to be better. So we were striving to be better. And
Wow. You have an
and
accomplice.
I
You
do,
have an
but
accomplice.
here's the thing. So after after you threw your first temper tantrum over seeing your feed being inundated with pickleball, I actually did log into my own YouTube channel, and that threw you into a second temper tantrum when you couldn't figure out how to find your YouTube channel because for how great you are at technology, sometimes you don't know how to work our television.
Yeah, that's
Fair?
factual. That's
Okay.
factual. It's
So
yeah, I just throw the remote at you. I'm like,
my
make it work.
that is
Make it work.
and listen, and I am happy to make it work. But you do now need to make it really like this has to be a decision. I'm glad it's being recorded. Do you want me to log into my own channel? Then you have to figure out how to put it back to yours. Or
Okay.
is it okay if I just watch like every once in a while something on, because I do like watching everything on yours too. Like I really like a lot of the podcasts you've subscribed to, and we watch a lot of things together. So
Yeah.
is there a
There's
meeting
common ground.
space here?
Yeah.
Can we come together on this and live in
Yeah.
harmony?
Yeah. We are going to have to invest in another 85-inch TV for the other wall. And then
Perhaps
you can stay logged in.
perhaps maybe, just maybe, you should
We
be
have
appreciative that I am expanding your knowledge because
we have no
all
more
you
wall space.
do is curate your feed with whatever it is that you were just talking about. I forget because you used a lot of
I
words, but
hesitate to tell you this. But I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you that the results are in from my temper tantrum that I threw on social media because basically I asked the social media stratosphere if I should divorce you, and the overwhelming answers were no. So
oh,
the people
thank
have
you.
spoken. The people have spoken.
Woo.
Our marriage is saved. But I think you're right. I think we have to get common ground. I think maybe we should build an addition onto the house so we have extra wall space so you can have your own TV. That's all. All right, we're going to
Okay,
move
but
on.
that would be me building the addition, and honestly, then you would just call me back into your room to 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 find what you want on the
I
TV.
would.
So
Then you would have to get up. I would be like,
yeah,
I would just
so
start yelling, Chris, can you help me? I can't figure out. Yeah, I can't. I know I want to watch that show. That's actually what my problem is the shows that we binge watch. I don't know what channels they're on. That's why
my
I throw the
favorite is you're
remote at
like,
you.
make it work. I'm like,
Just make
okay.
it work.
But anyways, let's. I'm very relieved that our marriage is saved because, as you can tell, I was packing up.
Yeah, because the people spoke. The people have spoken, and I don't know. They found some empathy for you, and I found that
Oh,
very
thank
confusing.
you,
Yeah, so
listeners.
obviously, I won't be turning to the social media stratosphere again for
Thank
advice
God my
because they
pickleball friends watch this podcast because otherwise we'd probably be divorced.
they everyone seemed to be on your side. But so that's a really good tee up though for this week's topic, which
Let me just back up. Sorry. One more
okay,
thing.
we're
If
not
you're
done,
going
are
to,
we?
if you
Okay.
no, because I think if you're going to put things in the stratosphere like that, I think you should also put in the stratosphere about how when I make the bed, you remake it, even though
Yeah,
it's just not perfect.
everyone knows that. Everyone knows that
Right.
who
But you
listens to
should,
me.
I know, but you should just ask their opinion. Is Kristen crazy? Because then that way, like, you won't
Listen,
look at me when you walk into the bedroom and you see I've made the bed and it's not to your standard.
I don't even understand how when you make the bed
So
and
anyway,
how
so
you can
what are we
walk
going to talk
away
about?
from it.
I'm sorry, what are we talking about this week?
Oh my gosh. Your method in making the bed it's just, I just can't. Okay. But that's a whole other episode that we'll talk about. So, well, I had a crisis in my life. As you know, you were
Oh
not
yeah.
present for it though. You were not present for what happened to me when a gecko broke my phone. So I was out on our lanai, and that is a fancy word for patio in South Florida. And I my entire life unraveled right there. And I mean, I don't even think I'm being a little dramatic, but what happened was I was about to sit down on the sofa outside when this smug little lizard poked its head out from between the cushions. And I freaked out. Like I screamed like a little girl, and my phone launched right out of my hand and it landed face down on the cement and it cracked into a spider web of regret. So I thought, all right, this is not that big of a problem. It still worked. So I just had to, I couldn't see through it. But I have Apple Care because I plan ahead for things like the unexpected reptilian sabotage. So there's an Apple store a half hour from our home. So I contacted the Genius Bar and I set myself up for an appointment that same day. And I walked in and I handed the beautiful Apple Genius my phone. And she looked at it and she said, "We can fix this while you wait." I said, "That is wonderful." She said, "But first," she had to do a diagnostic test to make sure the lizard didn't damage the innards of my phone. Now, that is a sentence I never thought I would say out loud, but here we are. This is where things spiraled, Chris, and you know this. So I'm a beta tester for Apple because obviously I'm like a VIP. And so apparently
I am too, but go ahead.
I know. We are a very small percentage of people, the elite, I would say. So apparently the new beta software is unreleased that was on my phone and it didn't play nice with their diagnostic tool. So she had to go get another Genius. So now the Geniuses were multiplying and they said, "Oh, this is why, is because it won't read this." So long story short, my phone had to be wiped and reset to factory settings. And I thought, well, that's no problem. Okay. It was 1 o'clock and she said the phone would be ready by 3:20. So I thought, all right, I'll just drive home and I'll come right back after 2.5 hours. And then I started walking to my car and I realized that I couldn't drive home. Why? Why could I not drive home? Because I own a Tesla before I knew Elon was crazy. And I didn't have my phone. That's my Tesla key. So I panicked and I turned around and I went back into the Apple store and I thought, oh my gosh, wait a minute. Hold on. I have a backup plan here. I have an Apple Watch and it has my Tesla app on it, except that didn't work either because my watch is tethered to my phone that just got snapped back to factory default. So now, do you know what this was? Do you know what this watch was? It just was a glorified bracelet that told time.
Oh, so a watch.
That's all it did. It was just only telling me the time.
A watch.
Yeah. How isn't that crazy? It only told time. Okay. So I was stranded. I was stranded at the Apple store. I had no phone. I had no car. I had no water or sustenance. And I had no ability to call you to tell you because you just thought I was going to go get a quick fix on my phone and be home. So now I know that I'm going to be gone for 3 hours, except that I couldn't contact you. But then yes, please stop me at any point if you have any questions that need to be clarified, because I was alone. I was all by myself.
At any point, did you think of just walking up to one of those Geniuses and saying, "Can I borrow your phone to call my wife?"
That was my last resort.
Saying, like, and
here's why. Because I had a quick fix. It was easy. I was like, oh my gosh, I can communicate with you very easily via iMessage because the iCloud, platform, it's all interconnected and it's so beautiful. So if you've ever been into an Apple showroom, listeners, you know that there are Apple computers everywhere and you can go play with them. And so I got on the internet and my plan was to log into my iCloud account where I would have all my emails. I was either going to send you an email and I was like, oh, I could just iMessage you from right here. And so then I tried to log on, but because of that thing called two-factor authentication, authentication, right? So it said, we've just sent a code to your device. Well, my device was a brick. It was wiped clean. So I couldn't get the code. I looked at my watch. I was like, no, it's not going to come to my watch either. So I was like, God bless. Okay. So I can't even communicate with her. So then I thought, all right, well, I have a Google email too. So I tried to log into my Google account. Guess what? It also has two-factor authentication. So that code also sent to my phone. All right. So now I am like I'm thinking I did have a moment. That's a great question. I did have a moment where I was like, I'm just going to ask Apple Genius because I know your phone number by heart. So that's a start. So I was going to just,
Thankfully.
yeah. So I was just going to borrow a phone. But then I thought, well, hold on. You get DMs. I can Facebook DM you. I can all of the whatever. So I try to log into Facebook. I've changed my password so many times that now my biometrics, I just use my phone or my finger and my face. So I couldn't remember my most recent password. So I got locked out of Facebook. I got locked out of Instagram. I got locked out of Twitter trying to remember my passwords. And I am dying of thirst. I am stranded in the Apple store and I cannot leave. And after I got locked out of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all of the things, I gave up and I just thought I am stranded here. So you know what I did? I logged on to Safari and I just thought I'll play Wordle because we play Wordle every day and we share our Wordle. And I think, is that what old people do or do normal people play Wordle?
No, because remember we were doing that with our kids. So I mean,
Okay.
it's
Well,
not just
so
old people.
listeners, we play Wordle every day and we share our Wordle. It's like a competition that we have with our friend Tom. And so we play Wordle. And so I pulled it up on Safari, but it occurred to me that my starter word for Wordle is penis. I got that from son Jake. So on the giant, like 24-inch iMac or however giant that screen is, I wrote like penis in really big letters. And I did look around. I was like trying to shield the screen, but that made me laugh. But anyway, I solved the Wordle. And that is when it occurred to me that I joined Blue Sky recently and I remembered my Blue Sky password. So I thought, oh, you're on Blue Sky because you joined Blue Sky. So I thought I can communicate with you there and send an SOS about being stranded in a first world apocalypse. And so you answered me and I said, Chris, I don't even know what I wrote, but I'm like, I am stuck in the Apple store. I can't leave. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm sure I've dropped a couple of F-bombs,
I'm
but
starving. I have no food. I have no
yeah,
water.
yeah,
I'm
it was,
stuck here.
yeah, in the Apple store. And God, Chrissy, I think that you should be promoted to Apple Genius. It's like I saw the little dots typing and I was like, what are you going to say? And you said, I'll just unlock the Tesla from my iPhone and I'll put it in valet mode and you can drive home. I almost fainted because you're so brilliant. Like seriously, you should.
I did also turn the air conditioning on for you so that
You
when you walk to
did.
the parking lot, the car would be cooled down because I knew at that point you were very worked up. So I knew
Oh
you
my
were going to be
gosh.
sweaty.
You saved the day. I was like, oh my God, I forgot that there's valet mode. And that makes sense. So you're just like, boop, boop. And I walked to the car. Yep. I could hear it humming with the air conditioner. And I got in and I was like, wow, this was such an amazing fix. There is no crisis here anymore ish. And then I got into my car and I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to listen to a podcast. But I couldn't because Spotify and Apple Music live in my phone. And the phone was still in that blank slate. And in the Tesla, like you
Turn the
can't
radio on.
there it I okay this
Yes, you
is the other
can.
thing of make it work. I could not find a radio function on the Tesla screen. If you could go ahead and show me when we get off of this podcast, if you could show me where that is. But you know
Sure.
what?
It's
No,
super
don't.
simple.
Because you know why? Because I spent that 30 minutes in silence. It was like a little meditation. I just drove home in silence, only
Really, you came
with
home
my
and you said you
thoughts.
felt like you were on the Oregon Trail.
I
I
did.
mean, little
There was no
dramatic.
music, no memes, just sheer willpower. I don't know how to function with the tiny rectangle that controls my car, my calendar, my passwords, my friendships, and honestly, my identity. It
I
was
would
all gone for 30
oh,
minutes.
I would like you to just hear what I have to say and answer. Do you believe that maybe you have a little bit of a problem slash addiction with
Mhm.
your phone and your social media? Like, I feel like I would love to go on a vacation with you where we
Mhm.
lock our phones in a safe and we don't touch
Mhm.
them.
Yeah.
And I don't think, I mean, I know we've tried things like that. You cannot survive. And we've been
Mhm.
gone places where for the entire week I didn't even activate my phone because we were out of the country and I just left
Mhm.
it.
Yeah. No, I
But you
cannot.
had yours.
I will absolutely concede to this dependency. And then, as you know, when I got home, my phone, like, it wouldn't even activate. And so I had to go through some troubleshooting. So I didn't have a phone for all day.
And
Now,
you
here's the
were
thing.
very angry.
Yeah. But here's the thing. I want to tell you in my defense, though, I wasn't like, oh, I got to get on social media. We were leaving at 5 a.m. for a flight. And this was 10 o'clock at night that my phone still didn't work. And I was trying to get on with Apple support to figure out what was happening, because once again, all my passes, I understand I could have printed out, the pass, but it's like everything is on my phone, my mobile, every place we're going, I keep it on my phone, and the calendar and where we're headed and the addresses. It's, so the only reason that I was very cranky about that is I wasn't like, oh, I'm hankering for social media. I was
Well,
freaking
no,
like,
because
we leave.
You had your iPad,
Yeah,
and
I know, but
so you
totally,
still
but
were able to do all those things. And I'm not saying that. I'm
yeah,
just saying that, like, I think this is a good lesson for everyone, because
yeah,
the more we pay attention, like just that, like where you, thankfully, you do know my phone number by heart. And
yeah.
I know yours and I know our children's,
That
but
sounds stupid though. Hold on. That
it,
sounds stupid. Like, oh, thankfully you know my phone number, but do you know how many people are like, oh my God, I can't remember, because
that's
we bump our phones, right? Or we
that's
just
what
share
I'm
a
saying.
contact.
I mean,
Yeah, I know. It sounds
I
stupid.
can remember when we were still working, when we would take someone into custody and we would take their things, and they were allowed one phone call. And they were like, but I don't know anybody's number. And I'm go, okay, I would have to go into their phones to find mom's or their
Mm-hmm.
spouses or their whatever's phone number, because they
Mm-hmm.
didn't know it, because these were younger kids and they didn't have, that thing we used to have where we used to dial the phone. Like, we grew up remembering phone numbers because we didn't have all the technology we have now. But I think that just this in general is such a good lesson for everybody, that some being connected is just not always great.
Wait, do you know that there's a thing, what you've just described? There's a name for what you just described. It's called
No.
digital amnesia, where we no longer remember phone numbers, directions, passwords, because we rely on our devices to store them. That is an actual thing. So I pulled up some research here to basically look into my dependency. So, first of all, 97% of Americans own a cell phone, and 90% own a smartphone. So 90% of us, which doesn't surprise me at all. And there is a study that came out in 2021, and it found that smartphone separation anxiety, also a name for this, nomophobia, is increasingly common, especially among high performers. That totally tracks for me. So the data backs it up. I am an absolute slave to my phone. I'll start ticking if my phone is, yeah, broken, obviously, because
Yeah,
it only
it's
happened for one day.
no, I know. We were just flying back from Seattle, and there was a person next to me, and they were talking about how their 2-year-old grandchild
Yeah.
can take their phone,
Oh.
open it up, get to
Mm-hmm.
the camera app, and take pictures of themselves. 2 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep
Mm-hmm.
thinking, like, we need to be better, right?
Yeah.
It's sad that that's where we're at, that, kids are being raised by mobile devices and television programs. And remember when we were kids? I mean, you were told to go outside at sunrise, and you weren't allowed
Mm-hmm.
to come home till sunset, and you did everything outside. And I was just listening to a podcast about how what the way we lived gave us a sense of we were never bored.
Yeah.
And I can remember our kids, if the minute they were not stimulated, they were like, we're bored.
Yeah.
They had a pool, they had a trampoline, they had a tetherball, they had so much stuff in our house,
Mm-hmm.
and they would look at us and say, "We're bored." And
Yeah, well, that's your own fault. Yeah, boredom
right,
is not a
but
thing, because yeah, if you're bored, then that is a lack of imagination,
right,
and that stifles creativity in children as well, in all of us,
and
honestly. I
us,
mean,
yeah,
yeah. In fact, funny, on that 30-minute drive home where I had nothing, I actually had a couple great ideas about some upcoming blog posts that I want to write about. Imagine that if I was quiet and still, more so like I should be. So you bring up, a very interesting topic is children. And this is why we have such short attention spans these days. And the idea that everything is more convenience. We've built our lives around convenience, and now we don't know how to exist without it. And we are instilling that in our children, and also it's blocking their creativity. But you know what? I thought of during that 30-minute ride home that I think is even more dangerous. Aside from the obvious things that we know, like when people are sitting at dinner and I look around, and I see they're not even talking to each other. They're just on their phones. And I've tried really hard when we are at dinner with people, I just put it right in my bag
You
and
are doing a very good
I
job.
am so proud of myself. I've even taken, I've deleted some of them off of my phone. So I'm not just scrolling mindlessly. And so I try to make it more purposeful. So I'm really, really trying. So aside from that, the human connection barricade or brick wall that is put between people because of this, that's a problem, right? But you know what else is a bigger problem? And this is what got me thinking about it is, um, we are so vulnerable. We believe that we are more connected, we're more prepared, and we're more efficient. We are so vulnerable. If there is a blackout, if there is a cyber attack, if there is, as in my case, a rogue lizard, that cuts us off from communication, transportation, identity. And what I mean by identity is, do you know your medical information? Can you get into it? Do you know your social security number? Again, all of the phone numbers that you're talking about. We imagine, this is what I want people to imagine, that the world blacks out right now. Do you have a method to contact your family? Do you have a place to convene? This is the cop in me, and especially the cop who is all about preparedness. I just started spiraling when I thought about just how disconnected I was, thinking I got to get on that plane tomorrow and my mobile boarding pass is on there. But then it just spiraled me into, we wouldn't even be able to communicate with our children. So I really wanted to bring attention to this and call myself out on this as well. Is that, listen, I'm not asking everyone to live in a cabin and churn butter. Just saying, have a backup plan. Like, consider paper copies of your passwords, of phone numbers, a physical key. I know, who would have thought? A written contact list. So I don't know. It got me thinking about this thing that happened to me that was only just a minor blip in my life.
And I agree with that, with that you just said, but I look at it a little bit differently, because I look at it as all of these connections we have through social media, whether it's Instagram or, Facebook or insert platform here, keeps us, we feel like we're connected to people when we're really not, because we're only seeing a snapshot of their life. We're only seeing the good parts. So I've been doing a lot of thinking about that and picking up the phone and making those phone calls and trying to be better about it, because I saw that your kid just graduated college or high school, and we've known each other since we were 7 years old. But what do I know? I don't know anything, because all I know is what you decide to put up on this platform. And so we're not really as connected as we think we are, and that to me is a big loss for the world, because we think we have all these friends, but how many friends do I actually have that I pick up the phone and I know what's happening? And there's not a lot.
It was the renowned psychologist Esther Perel that said, we have 1,000 friends on social media, but no one to call, to feed our cat if we're in the hospital or if we're sick, or no one to go pick up our medication, the real people that you turn to in the flesh. So, we have to be careful about cultivating what are really fake relationships. Our son-in-law, we just saw him in Seattle on his birthday, on his 30th birthday. And, I said, happy birthday. And, he said, yeah, it's kind of funny. He said, I got off social media. And he said, and it's actually been kind of interesting this birthday, because the people who have reached out to me are the people who actually know when my birthday is, and not just the, hey, it's his birthday today. And so then we write a message, happy birthday, but we wouldn't even know if it's their birthday, but for social media. And he's like, so it's been kind of cool. He's like, the people that care about me are the ones that reached out today. And I thought that was kind of profound. And it's true, if you actually know people's birthdays. So, I think it just got me thinking, and I want everyone else to start thinking about about disrupting this in some way. If tech went down tomorrow, a solar flare, a zombie uprising, would you know how to find one another? And do you have a backup plan for this world that we fit into our pockets when that pocket rips? So here is your disruption challenge, listeners. I want you to just do what I did, although it was forced upon me, but take one day to live like your phone doesn't exist. No apps, no autopilot, just you, unplugged, and notice how it feels. Notice what you reach for, and then ask yourself if the convenience that you have gained has come at a cost of something more essential. So I think it's not just about the lizard or the iPhone. It's about who we become when the signal drops. And yeah, I turned into a little bratty brat. That's the lesson, disruptors. Do you have anything to add there?
No, I have to go watch a pickleball match on your YouTube channel.
You need to go fuck up my algorithm. Okay, see you next time, my fellow disruptors. Keep on disrupting. And that's a wrap on this week's episode of the Disruptors Creed, where we don't do average, and we sure as hell don't do status quo. It's produced by me, Kristen Zeman, because I like to be in control of everything. Musical score is by Ethan Reardon and Jake Zeman, because talent runs deep in this gene pool. If you like what you heard, do that thing. Click subscribe, like, follow, or whatever button keeps this chaos flowing into your ears. And if you didn't like it, you probably need it more than you think. Head over to KristenZeman.com and sign up for my weekly brain droppings, where I dump thoughts, disrupt your thinking, and hopefully light a fire under your ass. All conveniently delivered to your inbox every Monday. You're welcome. Until next time, keep on disrupting, my fellow disruptors. Onward and upward.